Nestled deep in the misty mountains of Japan lay the monastery of the Still Wind, where monks dedicated their lives to meditation, mindfulness, and silence. Among them was a young monk named Kenji, whose heart was restless and mind unquiet. Kenji was known for his curiosity. He constantly asked questions, debated with fellow monks, and sought answers in endless words. Though he meditated daily, his thoughts swirled like autumn leaves in the wind, never settling.
I have studied, I have meditated, yet my mind is never still.
One evening, frustrated by his lack of progress, Kenji approached his master, the revered Zen teacher, Master Ryon.
Master, I have studied the sutras, recited the mantras, and practiced meditation, yet my mind remains troubled. What must I do to attain wisdom?
Master Ryon regarded him with kind yet piercing eyes.
Come with me,
he said simply. The two monks walked in silence, following a narrow path through the monastery garden. The moon hung low, casting silver light over the cherry blossoms. They reached a small pond where a wooden boat rested on the shore. Master Ryon stepped inside and gestured for Kenji to join him.
Row,
he said. Kenji obeyed, dipping the oars into the still water. At first he rowed swiftly, eager to prove himself. The boat rocked, the water churned, and ripples disturbed the reflection of the moon.
Be still,
Master Ryon instructed. Kenji slowed his movements, rowing gently until the water calmed. The boat glided smoothly, and the moon's reflection returned, perfect and unbroken. Master Ryon spoke softly.
The mind is like this pond. When you fill it with words, with noise, with endless questions, it becomes disturbed. But in silence it becomes clear.
Kenji frowned.
But, Master, if I do not ask questions, how can I learn?
Master Ryon smiled but said nothing. They rowed in silence until they reached the far side of the pond. Master Ryon stepped out and motioned for Kenji to follow. A winding path led them into the dense forest, where the air was thick with the scent of pine and earth. After some time, they arrived at a small, humble hut. Smoke curled from the chimney and the sound of chopping wood echoed through the trees. An old man, weathered by time, was splitting logs with a heavy axe. Master Ryon approached the old man and bowed deeply. The man bowed in return, but spoke no words. For several minutes, they simply stood together in silence. Then, Master Ryon picked up an axe and began splitting wood alongside the old man. Kenji hesitated, confused.
Master, who is this man?
This is Koji. He has lived here in silence for 40 years.
40 years, and he has not spoken at all.
He speaks when necessary, but rarely. His silence is his teacher.
Kenji could not contain his curiosity. He turned to the old man and asked,
What wisdom have you gained from all these years of silence?
Koji looked at him, his face unreadable. Slowly, he raised his axe and split another log. The pieces fell apart effortlessly. Then he turned to Kenji and smiled. Kenji waited for an answer, but none came.
I do not understand. He refuses to speak. How can silence teach anything?
Master Ryon placed a hand on Kenji's shoulder.
Come, let us return.
They walked back through the forest in silence. The only sounds were the whisper of the wind and the rustling of leaves. When they arrived at the monastery, Master Ryon led Kenji to his chamber and motioned for him to sit. A steaming pot of tea sat on the wooden table. Master Ryon picked up a cup and began pouring. Kenji watched as the cup filled, but Master Ryon did not stop. The tea overflowed, spilling onto the table.
Master, the cup is full. No more can go in.
Master Ryon set the pot down and met Kenji's eyes.
Just as no more tea can enter a full cup, no wisdom can enter a mind cluttered with words.
Kenji sat in stunned silence.
You fill your mind with words, questions, and explanations, but true wisdom is not found in more noise. It is found in stillness, in presence, in listening.
Kenji lowered his gaze, contemplating the spilled tea. For the first time, he had no reply.
Go now. Sit by the pond. Say nothing. Just listen.
Kenji obeyed. He walked to the pond and sat cross-legged by the water's edge. He closed his eyes, letting go of the need for words, the urge to analyze. At first, his thoughts raced. But as the minutes stretched into hours, his mind settled. He listened, not just with his ears, but with his entire being. He heard the wind sighing through the trees, the gentle lapping of water against the shore, the distant chirp of a nightingale. He felt the cool breeze against his skin, the rhythm of his own breath. And then something remarkable happened. In the depth of that silence, he understood. There was nothing to seek, nothing to grasp. Everything he needed to know was already here in the present moment. Silence was not emptiness, it was fullness. It was not ignorance, it was wisdom. Kenji opened his eyes. The pond before him was perfectly still, reflecting the vast sky above. He smiled. The next morning, Kenji approached Master Rayone and bowed deeply. He did not speak. Master Rayone smiled knowingly.
Now you are beginning to understand.
From that day forward, Kenji spoke less and listened more. He found that in silence, he could hear not just the world around him, but the wisdom within himself. Years later, when he became a teacher, students would ask him endless questions about enlightenment. Sometimes he would answer, but often he would only smile and remain silent. And in that silence, his students would begin to hear the truth for themselves. Zen teaches that words are like fingers pointing to the moon. They can guide, but they are not the truth itself. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the space in which true wisdom arises. The next time you seek answers, ask yourself, is there wisdom in the silent? If you listen deeply enough, you may find that silence is the greatest teacher of all. When the mind is silent, the soul speaks. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.